Now, I have to say, at the start of the season, I didn't really expect that we'd get to this point of the campaign and Liverpool's trip to Nottingham Forest would be a top-of-the-table clash, but that is the situation we find ourselves in. It's first against third at the City Ground on Tuesday, and as ever, we've been hearing from Arne Slot ahead of that test. I'm here at the AXA Training Ground to see what he had to say in his pre-match press conference, and loads to get into from this one. I'll start, as I usually do, with the team news, and Slot was straight up asked, any team news to offer us, anything you can give up on this one. He said that the only absentees that Liverpool expect coming into this one are Joe Gomez and Darwin Núñez. Now, you may have forgotten about Darwin Núñez. He is actually suspended for this one due to the accumulation of yellow cards. Those suspensions don't count for League Cup, so he didn't serve it against Tottenham, but they do count for the Premier League because it is Premier League yellow cards, so he will be suspended for this visit to Nottingham Forest. And of course, with Joe Gomez, still that hamstring injury that he sustained a little while ago. Slot was pushed a bit further on that in terms of where he's up to, and just said that Joe is still quite far from being involved, definitely not training with the team at the moment. So we don't have a concrete timescale on that one, but it still looks like he's going to be out for a little while. I'd be kind of massively surprised if we saw him this month at all, so we'll just see how long that one goes on for, but hopefully back soon, because he's obviously an important part of the squad, such a versatile player across all that defence he can play, can't he? So really would be good to get him back soon. And just one further thing as well, of course, that you may have seen some rumours on social media that maybe Ibrahima Konate had picked up an injury or was maybe a doubt for this game. Obviously, there was a suggestion that he was a late change to the starting lineup to face Accrington Stanley, and maybe that Konate was supposed to be in that, but then suddenly wasn't. But as I say, no mention from Slot of any doubts around him or any illness or any injury there. So I think we've got to assume that he's fit and ready for this one, which I think is a bit of a boost because, as I say, those rumours were circulating on social media. So a bit of a relief really. It doesn't seem to be anything in that, and that Ibrahima Konate will be part of the squad and no doubt part of the starting 11 to face Nottingham Forest. Now, just staying around team news really, it was a bit on Diogo Jota that I found quite interesting actually, and he was just asked about his importance and said that obviously he is huge for Liverpool. He took on the captain's armband against Accrington Stanley, and he's a player that Arne Slot always wants to be in and around his squad if possible. But it was interesting, he spoke about that obviously he had that fitness setback, didn't he, that rib injury that he sustained against Chelsea. He was out for a long while, and it's taken him a while to force his way back into the team really. Even just as a substitute, we haven't seen an awful lot of him, and then now he's starting to start games again. And it was interesting that the manager said that, we've been giving him 30 minutes here and there, then 60 minutes, and now he feels like he's absolutely ready to do 90 minutes. So I think that comes as a boost, that you can start Jota in these games and know that you don't necessarily have to bring him off, because obviously he's one of your best strikers, he's one of the best finishers at the club. Important to keep him on the pitch for as long as possible. So he is ready to do 90 minutes for this Nottingham Forest game, according to Arne Slot. So I think that's an important boost. And I guess the big decision now is, you've got a fully fit Jota there. You've got Luis Diaz, who's available as well. Who gets that nod in the number 9 position? Who is Arne Slot's preferred selection in that position when both players are fit? I think that's a really, really interesting team selection headache that he's got coming into this one. And I think we'll learn a bit more about what he prefers in that centre-forward role, depending on whether it's Jota in that role or we see Luis Diaz. So we'll have to see on that one, but I do think it's an interesting one. And again, kind of want to stick around the team news thing, because again, most of the interesting things he said in this press conference related to that really. And he was asked about the fact that, obviously Liverpool have got the suspension of Núñez, but only one injury at the moment. Now, touch wood, it stays that way, obviously. But it's such a big step change, isn't it, when you consider what it was like last season, Jurgen Klopp's final season in charge. So many injuries. And for me, that was the big reason that Liverpool fell off in the title charge in the latter part of the season. I just think injuries finally caught up with them, and the fatigue that bakes into the squad, and also the fact that some players were coming back and they just weren't sharp. So for me, that's been a big step change. He was kind of asked about that, and the quote was, things can change, but it's definitely helpful for any manager to have all your players available, and that is what we almost have at the moment. So it is important, and I think it's going to be a big factor if Liverpool can stay along these lines. They're going to get injuries, yes, but if you can stay in this sort of area where they've only got one or two at a time, then I think it'd be massively helpful for the run-in, and that they'll find themselves in much better shape when it comes to that point of the season. So we hope it continues. And just in terms of how Liverpool have achieved that, I thought it was an interesting line from Slot here, where he was talking specifically about Jota, but said it was true of all the squad really, is that the players have 80% really the same program. They go through the same exercises, they train in exactly the same way. But he said 20% of their training program is individual and tailored to them. Now, I don't really have any kind of insight into if that was exactly how it worked under Jurgen Klopp, but I do think it's interesting that they do that. And I would say that whether it's different to Klopp or not, whatever Slot and his staff, his fitness staff, have put in place this season definitely seems to be working, doesn't it? Because Liverpool's fitness record is much improved from last season. And I remember in a piece I wrote prior to this season highlighting that as an area where Liverpool could make gains. I felt like that was something that could add points to the Premier League tally, even disregarding signings or anything else. I thought that having a better fitness record was key, and so far we are seeing that. And as I say, maybe it's the things that Slot and his team are doing behind the scenes in terms of managing the players and those tailor-made training programs. They definitely seem to be working, so long may that continue. Now, another quick line that I thought was interesting from this one, not related to team news for once. He was asked about Wataru Endo. Obviously, he came in against Accrington Stanley again, and I thought really, really impressive in that centre-back role. He's been very, very good whenever he's come in midfield as well this season, and he spoke about Wataru Endo's character more than anything. Obviously, he's been impressed with his performances, but he's been blown away really by what he's shown as a person so far. And the story he told was that prior to that game, he brought in Harvey Elliott, felt he had to sit him down and say, look, I know I'm giving you an opportunity and it's not in your preferred number 10 position, but because of the players we've got available, I've got to use you wide right, and kind of explaining his decision and almost apologising for it, I guess, that Harvey wasn't getting the opportunity in the position he would prefer to play because he might be a bit frustrated about that. And he said, you know, Harvey's a great guy as well, but he said, but I didn't feel like I needed to do that with Wataru. I didn't feel like I needed to sit him down and explain that you're going to get an opportunity, but it's not in midfield. You know, he feels like he can take those things on the chin. And he said that I get the vibe from him very much that, you know, whenever you use me, I will play wherever you want, whenever you want, and I'm happy to do a job there for you. You know, and he said, I've seen so many players down the years, I bring them in for 5 minutes and they're not happy. You know, if they're coming on for the last 5 minutes of the game, maybe they're prone to sulking a little bit about that. But he said, Wataru is nothing like that. You know, he shows a great attitude every time I call upon him, and I think it shows as well for me. You know, at the start of the season, I wrote many pieces about this and spoke about it, that the manager wasn't fully convinced that Wataru Endo could be a big part of his squad, but I think he's really, really shown what he's about in training, shown great attitude, and really kind of forced his way into the manager's plans. Not necessarily that we see an awful lot of him, but we see an awful lot more of him than we did at the start of the season. The manager much more willing to throw him in, much more willing to use him in various positions, happy to use him to see out games as well. So I think that is huge testament to the character of the player. I think that he's forced that little turnaround in the manager's mind, and I think he can be crucial in the games that are coming up, particularly, you know, Nottingham Forest here, away from home, big counter-attacking threat. If Liverpool are ahead late in the game and they need to see it out and the manager turns to Wataru Endo, you'd have no doubts whatsoever that he would put in a shift there and help get Liverpool over the line. So it could be a big job for him this weekend, but we'll see whether he gets on the pitch. But the manager certainly seems to like what he offers, not just on the pitch but also off it. So I'm going to wrap it up there anyway. I'm really looking forward to this game, I have to say. I think it's a massive test, isn't it? Nottingham Forest flying. They play the sort of football that's so difficult as a big club. When you go to their ground to try and dominate, they can hurt you so much with the pace on the counter. They're really, really good at defending deep and making it difficult for you. So they've got all the ingredients to kind of pull off those upsets against the big sides. So I think it is a big test. But for me, Liverpool have had a couple of squiffy results recently and a bit of doubts creeping in amongst the fan base, but I think this is a real opportunity to go there and prove what this side is about and prove that this is the team that's going to go and lift the Premier League title. And judging from some of the answers as well from Arne Slot, I think he's a little bit focused on revenge for that Anfield defeat they had earlier this season as well. He doesn't seem to be happy about that. He brings it up constantly, so I'm pretty sure he's determined to get one over Forest in this one. So as I say, going to leave it there anyway. If you can like and subscribe, always massively appreciated. I'll see you guys soon because I'll be back for my post-match review tomorrow. See you then.